listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Well, here we are, dear listeners. Welcome back to the den for what seems like an absolute age for me. I've been away on holiday a little bit in the intervening period since I was last here. I missed the Coventry game for various familial reasons. Welcome to a grey, overcast, not terribly cold den for the visit this afternoon of Luton Town, placed just 1 point behind us in the table in 13th position. The Lions come into today's match in 11th after that wonderful win up there at Barnsley. With that late goal by Murray Wallace, 89th minute winner, which caused joy and ecstasy all around our house, certainly, bet your house too. Is it the start of an upsurge in Millwall's fortunes for the second part of the season, dear listeners? Certainly the news sites are full of Jed Wallace, his contribution to the season so far. Let's hope we see a good one from today from Jed. Today's Millwall team in goal, Barb is unchanged. Bielkowski in goal. The back line will be Murray Wallace, hero of Oakwell, Sean Hutchinson, Jake Cooper, either side and Danny Mack. Murray Wallace on the left, of course, is silly me. Daniel Ballard in the back line defence. I'm all askew, dear listeners. Midfield is George Saville, had a bit of a hint of injury about him after the internationals in midweek. And George Evans up front. We have Ojo, we have Jed Wallace, and we have Benik Afobe. I like the look of that starting 11, dear listeners. How do you like that? Apologies for being a bit stuttery there. I couldn't remember my back lines from my wing backs. Good crowd here today. The territorial support group are outside Metropolitan Police. I must anticipate a bit of a visit from the MIGs from Luton. I don't know if they're down here today. Certainly the TSG are all outside, but their blue lights are flashing. Lions will kick us off, attacking the away end in accordance with English common law since the time of the Mappa Mundi. It's got it written on it. I've had a look. I went to Hereford Cathedral in my holes, and it's actually written on there. I had a quick look. And away we go. I do see a tweet of doom from a site called Kickoff on Twitter, reposted by Ryan, our own Ryan. It says Kickoff say Millwall have drawn 4 of their last 6 league games, whilst Luton have drawn 5 of their last 7, which, as Ryan says, doesn't bode particularly well. We'll see. Long ball forwards finds Jed on the attack. Ball across to the left now. This is Murray Wallace. Finds Ojo on the left. I thought he was very promising up there at Yorkshire. Has a beautiful cross over the top of everybody. Unfortunately, no one in the middle to be on the end of that. That was begging for a Matt Smith inside the 6-yard box. Beautiful cross by Shea Ojo, dear listeners. I really like the look of this boy, as you may be able to tell from my gush. Birdshit hasn't improved up there in Block 1. I'm back in Birdshit Corner. I don't know what these birds are eating in South Bermondsey, but they look like kind of prehistoric orcs or something. Are they prehistoric orcs? I don't know. Orc shit. I mean, orcs. ORC. Horrible, rip-roaring crap. I just made that one up. Gary Rowett did mention to the London News Online the need to work on the attacking side of Mill's game. He's become known as Draws online. Draws Rowett. Luton break, the 18 on the edge of the penalty. That's a great ball, comes loose. It's a 1-0, 7. Ball ran loose inside the penalty area. Sean Hutchinson couldn't control it. It falls to the 7, he puts it into the top right-hand corner. Beautiful finish, in all fairness. Lions behind, 1-0 on 10.5 minutes. Luton taking forever to celebrate their goal over in the far corner. Lions ready to go. What you might call a sudden loss of control on the in the centre there. The ball came into Hutchins. I'm speaking strictly from memory. I'm not showing the replay. He couldn't control it. It ran loose. 7 was free inside the box. And he slid home with aplomb, to be fair to him. They still haven't reformed. That's a good minute. This must be the beautiful style that Nathan Jones keeps talking about. Danny Mack trying to combine with Jed. The pass was just a little bit off. Jed in a kind of a free-ranging role. He's here, he's there, on the right and the left, so to speak, in the middle. Here he is now on the left. His imagination was in front of him, of Murray Wallace there, unfortunately. It breaks. This is the 11. He finds the 2 on the right side. There's a ball across the box. Escorted wide by Danny Mack, thankfully, because there was a moment of where the world freezes and the ball's free in front of the goal and no one seemingly in the middle to tap it home. Thankfully. Lions being caught out on the break for the goal and now momentarily there. Brightish start by Millwall. But increasingly sloppy, and there's Bart putting the ball straight into touch from a goal kick. Increasingly sloppy as after the goal. Luton breaking with balls over the top and really, hurting our defence, to be blunt, listeners. Not been brilliant so far from the Lions, in all honesty. Oh yeah, of course that was Fred, wasn't it? Those boos that you might have heard a few minutes ago. Fred's warming up downstairs. It just dawned on me who it was. How the stars are forgotten once the page turns. Take by Benica Fobe. We've got Ojo now, which is running into a lot of white shirts. This is Jake Cooper on the left. Finds Ojo just on the left corner of the penalty area. George Saville, the crowd want a shot. He's not gone for it. He's found Danny Mack on the right. The ball's into the mix. Benica Fobe's shot blocked. It falls to Jed Wallace on the left side. No one can get a shot away upfield to Murray Wallace. Oh my giddy arm! That's gone for. It should have gone for a corner after Jake Cooper. Bit of panicky defence by Luton, but we've not looked brilliant in defence. That's the first time we've really tested the Luton defence, and they looked like rabbits on the M1. There's a little marker for the rest of the game, I think. Get the ball in there and get in amongst it. Ojo with a nice run, intelligent little run. The boy is step up from what we're used to seeing, in my opinion. All over the top for Benica Fobe to run onto. He need to be good to get that back. He's kept it for a Luton throw down by the corner flag. The 11's a big player. He's just pushed Ballard off the ball there. Good defending. He's got back and got in front of the ball. Done well there, Ballard. Only Premier League superstars, it says. But this is Richard Corley of the South London Press. Only Premier League superstars Mohamed Salah, Hong Min Son and Riyad Mahrez have produced more goals and assists since the start of the 2017-18 season than Jed Wallace. That's the kind of company Jed keeps. Smoke, steam, whatever it is. We don't really know what comes out of the Selchip power station. Pollution, who knows? Belching out. Making kind of like a hell scene of smoke swirling across the floodlit den. It's a bit of a hell scene of this first 32 minutes. Apparently Nathan Jones, the Luton manager, once tried to sign Jed Wallace, according to London News. It failed, obviously. Which is a bit like me claiming to have once tried to go out with Salma Hayek. They're ball in off the back of Jed Wallace and now a free kick. That was trickling towards goal with no power. The referee gave a free kick. In any event, last kick of the first half now. Free kick for Luton on the halfway line. There it is, half time. Not really good enough. You can hear the crowd's reaction. As I say, I think we've just been on the brink of some moments where we've not looked too bad. It's not been brilliant watch from a Mill perspective. Sloppiness in defence, giving Luton a chance to get ahead. So there we are. We look for better in the second half. It's Millwall 0, Luton Town 1 at the half-time break. We'll be right back after these messages, dear listeners.
Achtung, Millwall.
few half-time tweets for you, dear listeners. Dan replying to me saying that I expect Matt Smith to come into this at some point. Replies that it does feel like a game suited to big Matt Smith, says Dan. Wall, Afobe is calling for the ball to feet, but it's just going up in the air and he ain't going to win headers against this back four. It's just drab all round, says Dan. A performance that is now common, it seems. Doug in Sweden says we've been unlucky. Poor deflection for their goal. We've had a few half chances, but Jed quiet. Ojo looks our most dangerous player so far. Cooper still looks off his best. And I'm not sure where McNamara was, says Doug, for their goal. Hopefully we can get something out of this. And from our group chat, we may get messages from Mike Hayden, who says it's the same old utter crap at home. He's got to change the formation at half-time. Comments on the boos ringing out at half-time. I'm saying not good enough. Sloppy in defence, errors on the ball. You know that already, though, by listening to the show. And Ryan replies, very frustrating because nothing ever seems to change. That's an interesting point, dear listeners. The club is in a weird limbo under Gary Rowett. Is it in a weird limbo? A couple of goals might help that limbo complaint in the second half, I don't know. Just a quick thank you to everyone who voted for us in the Football Content Awards, which were held this week over at the Royal Lancaster Hotel in Bayswater. We went along to it. It was quite an interesting event. It was everything I expected it to be, and I mean that both in the good sense and in the bad sense, I suppose. It's a strange thing. There are so many podcasts and YouTubers and the big boys of the scene. The AFTVs were there. There was loads of people I've generally never heard of, listeners. Some guy called Thogden and Thogdad and Thogden. Apparently they're huge, apparently. I'd never heard of them. They won on a wall. We weren't placed, which I was thinking about afterwards. We were nominated, which in itself is no bad achievement, to be nominated amongst the literally thousands of content creators, to use the buzzword. So we did well enough to be there, I suppose, but not to get in the place was quite, left a funny taste. In third place was the Darren McAntony podcast, the Peterborough chairman, Hard Truth. Second was the second tier in our category, Football League podcast, and number one was Sheffield United Way, which apparently is some big noise in the scene. They won another award for something, I can't remember what it was. Don't know, I mean the event itself was lots of pissed people there. I went with my wife. Tickets were extortionately expensive, and I managed to get a discount as a finalist. I wouldn't want to pay the silly £200 prices that were initially being quoted. I'm not sure if I'm going to bother with it anymore. I was left with the kind of the philosophical question as to why you should podcast in the first place, whether you should be in it to win awards and plaudits, which I won't deny were nice last year when we won the bronze in the COVID lockdown season. So it's kind of like an ego massage. But I'm questioning myself as to whether that's what I'm here and why I'm doing this, listeners. So anyway, we'll see about next year. I'm a bit half and half about it. I'm certainly not going to pay a couple of £100 for a ticket to sit in that anymore. Second half is now underway. You'll be glad to hear after Mulhall. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that voted for us and took the time and trouble to back us in that. It does mean a lot. So after those less than ringing endorsements at half-time, it's up to the Lions to try and make something happen in the second 45. Let's see what we get, dear listeners. Yeah, so senses of perspective. It was quite an interesting event, as I said earlier on at half-time. We were sat on the same table as a bunch of guys from Bury, the Phoenix Club from Bury, where they actually won an award, which I was quite pleased for them because their story is absolutely shocking in this modern world of football. Contrast that with the likes of Sky Sports, ESPN, AFTV, Manchester City podcast went up there, the big boys as they kept being called by the rather irritating hosts of the show. Mixed in with some really worthy stuff. There was one young girl that had won an award for women's football, I think it was. So some really, really worthy stuff, but the prices were el stupido, and I'm not going to pay prices for what was a very average food. I mean, the food, bless her heart, my wife thought the main course was the starter when it came round. The wine was pony, and the £6.50 for a bottle of Peroni, the chaps next to me told me. Not that I was drinking that. And you can, there we are. You can hear the reactions around me to what we're seeing at the moment. A couple of minutes into the half. Luton are falling over a lot, taking their time. They're doing every trick in the book to try and drag the time out. Just wanted to say well done to all the other Millwall finalists. I saw Dan from Lions TV there. The club had a table. Billy and the media team, Mark Richfield and Max McClellan were there. And also to our own dear Lions Food Hub, who do such great things for the local community and that we support on this podcast. None of us were placed, as someone said on Twitter. It's almost like no one likes us. But I just want to say well done to everyone to be nominated in the high company and big numbers that were there that night. Ball lofted into the middle. There's a bit of panic in the Luton defence. So well done everyone, including MFC, Lions Food Hub, Lions TV and ourselves. Well, congratulate me. Also the chaps that helped me make the show, Ryan, Mike Hayden, Harry, Michael Avery, Aaron, and recently now Neil Fissner for our history shows, which I hope you enjoy. I certainly enjoy making them. Ball breaks, this is Luton, the 7's free in front on the edge of the D, that's going to be 2-0. Ruthless finishing. 2-0 down, 52 minutes. Ball break down the middle, that's the second decently taken goal for Luton. That's maybe the difference between Millwall and Luton, dear listeners. People filing for the exits. No love for Rowett. Ball breaks. Here we go again. The 7's through on goal. If he gets another one here, we're done for. If we're not done for already, that's gone for a goal kick. 53 minutes. Matt Smith's coming in. It's going to be Danny Mack that leaves the park. 54 minutes. Well, you can hear it, listeners. You can hear it. Luton come down the right now, the 11. Big boy, he's kept control well there. They've kept the ball on our right side. He can't get near the football at the moment. 17 now, Mill give the ball back. Balls into the middle and there's Bart. Collects. Ball to feet, Bennett wanted. He's run probably a difficult ball out, but he's run straight to trouble to Arrivederci. There's a long shot, he's hit the crossbar. Oh my giddy arm, the 17 hits the crossbar from distance. The crowd are not happy. Dear listeners, they are not happy. Feels like we're reaching a tipping point here, listeners. It's been a while since I've been at the Den. I missed the Coventry game. There were certainly ripples in previous matches. But this feels like outright frustration. Real raw frustration. You could hear it on the recording. Character of the players will be tested this afternoon now because they can hear the crowd. They'll be hearing it all, like you're hearing it. 61 minutes, still half an hour to go. A goal would change it, as I keep saying. We're not showing much chance. I can't think of one open chance we've created. Near misses. Last ball's going astray, but nothing, from creative open play, so to speak. Sean Hutchinson caught on a ball. Gets himself out of a hole there, luckily. Almost gave the ball away in front of goal. Panic station setting in now. Been sloppy in defence all game, but this is now panic. This, I think, is induced by the pressure of the terraces. It's been a strange season, listeners. It's a very strange season. Long ball forward for the 11 now. I'm just thinking back to Barnsley the other week, 2 weeks ago now. Seems like a long time ago in the context of this defeat, but that was a decent away performance. We seem to be a decent away side, we don't seem to be. We are a decent away side and a fucking awful home side. Solving that riddle, I don't think Gary Rowett has solved it. It's the question really, I suppose, is whether he shows any signs of solving it. Is it in his football DNA to produce the kind of football that brings the Den crowd into play? Still 20 minutes of this to go though, so mustn't moan too early. It's always a sad sight, people streaming for the exits early in a football match. I think it's one of the low points of the game, isn't it? You know. Well, that might be a bit over dramatic, but it's just not nice to see it. Well, Gary Rowett, speaking to the London News Online in the week, says it feels like we're just getting started after 100 games as Millwall boss. Is it that long? It seems longer, Gary. After the break, he also revealed his intent on attacking football, attacking focus during the international break. He has used apparently the 2-week international break to work on his side's attacking combinations, admitting it's the first time this season that he has had extensive frontline options available. I'll let you fill in your own punchlines to that particular gag, dear listeners. 75 minutes. There's a drift about the Den. I think that's what it is. And we're waiting an interminable time for these substitutions to take place. But there is a sense of drift at the Den. Now, the Barnsley win the other week was a decent performance, I thought. But this has not been a decent performance. So you need to get your home form right, and then you build on that. And unfortunately, that Gary Rowett has never really done that. I'm talking like I'm a Gary Rowett out man. I don't want to be. I don't, like I've said a few times on previous shows, I don't think we do manager sacking particularly well, and we don't have any vision of what we want to be in many respects. I think that Aaron said similar things on the show previously, but today's poor performance is kind of laying it out slightly. Millwall throw, thankfully. I must have missed the deflection there. Come towards 82 minutes. Ryan Leonard with a right-sided long diagonal ball. It falls now to Jules Saville over on the right. Billy Mitchell, I think, into the middle. Shoo shouts for a penalty. It is a penalty. Must have been handball. Hope springs eternal on 82 minutes. Yellow card. Must have been handball. Jed shapes up to take it. 83 minutes we're ticking towards now. Here we go. He saved it. Decent penalty. Got down low. Down low to the right. There's people now streaming for the exits. That's gone for a right-sided corner. A rare Jed Wallace miss. It doesn't feel like it's going to be our day, dear listeners.
There will now be a minimum of 4 minutes time. 4 minutes time. You will face please the exit from runway 2.
Ball coming in from the left there over the head of Matt Smith. That was from Ojo. 4 minutes seems an interminable time to wait for the inevitable, dear listeners. Oh, there we are. Very poor performance this afternoon. I mean, it's unchanged team from the one that did so well up at Barnsley a few weeks ago. It seems a long time ago, as I've said a few times in the course of this conversation. We haven't been on it. We've looked error prone in defence. We've got the goals were both avoidable, in my opinion, and we've not taken our chances when we've gone forwards. The final ball's been poor, and obviously the missed penalty, which gave us a brief flurry of hope. Mill's just not good enough now. Whether that raises questions over Rowett's future or not, I don't know. There was an outburst of anger when the second goal went in. That's faded somewhat as like a level of acceptance as the 4 stages of Millwall grief have sunk in over the course of the rest of the game. We're not very good at home, are we? We're not bad away from home, but we're not very good at home. And does he have the repertoire to solve it is going to be the question. I'm going to need more time to think about that than standing here in the heat of battle. Empty seats all around me now. I think probably what I am conscious of is it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've left the den with our spirits uplifted in some way. I mean, obviously it's always, you don't expect to see Lionel Messi turning out for us, but it's just been such a long time since we've played a buccaneering kind of brand of football that has sent you home having really enjoyed your afternoon or your evening at Millwall. Can Gary Rowett give you that kind of football, listeners? I generally thought this today would be the start of a decent run of form. It's been very poor this afternoon, and we're away at Sheffield United on Tuesday. In a funny kind of way, Rowett football may well be suited to that trip to Bramall Lane Tuesday night. In a way, it wasn't suited to this afternoon. I don't know. Certainly leaves you feeling flat. Another long ball into the middle, met by Smith. It's going to be gathered by the goalkeeper. There it is. You can hear the reaction. Millwall 0, Luton 2. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hello Nick, Tony Monday. What a load of old fucking shit. Same old, just looking laboured going forward. Against Barnsley, even we created loads. We looked laboured going forward. I thought we would click by now, but it ain't happening. And I'm not seeing any patterns of play going forward that I think that we're actually working on this and working. It's just not happening. We're just aimless. We've got a good left winger from Liverpool who's not playing on the left wing, not using Afobe to his strengths. It's not great. I can't be bothered even carrying on, Nick. It was fucking dull. See you later, mate.
Hello, Nick. I went today with some optimism following the 2 wins on a spin. But that quickly evaporated, and what we got was another dull and boring home performance. Rowett picked, in my opinion, what he classes as probably his strongest team, with probably exception of Malone. But as normal, there was no creativity. It was dull, slow and lethargic. The midfield has become a problem area for us for a while now. We create next to nothing. Danny Mack did not deserve to be taken off. Should have been Jake Cooper, who's having a nightmare season. Are the players beginning to tire of Rowett? Jed speaking up before the game that he would love to play for Luton manager Nathan Jones, who likes to play on the front foot and attack. Something has to change. The crowd making their feelings known with booing throughout the game. Will it change under Rowett? I don't think it will. At best, we're a mid-table team under him. At worst, we'll be fighting relegation. Cheers, Nick.
Hello, Nick. Hello, listeners. Ben Anthony here. I said after the Cardiff game that we should wait until about 12 games to make a judgment on how the team are doing. And the game against Luton was that 12th game, so I thought I would get back in touch. If you have a look at the league table, we're in 14th place, kind of bang in the middle in terms of points and position between that, the playoff places and the relegation zone. And I think that's kind of roughly where I'd expect us to finish at the end of the season as things stand. And I think that kind of sums up where we are as a team under Gary Rowett. We're safe I don't think we're under huge pressure of getting relegated, but I also don't think we're anywhere near good enough to compete for a playoff position, which is, I think, what the fans were hoping to see a bit more of this season, a bit more of a fight for that. And I think he's fallen short of that so far. And I think unless something quite drastic changes, I don't think we're going to be anywhere near those top six. Luton thoroughly deserved their win. They were a team that turned up ready for a fight and ready to try and attack and try and entertain their fans. And that's almost exactly the opposite of what Millwall were there to do. We tried to keep the ball, which we couldn't do. We couldn't string a pass together properly, and we didn't have any ideas going in attack. And we seemed to be prone to one or two defensive errors in the game that today led to 2 goals, which were quite simple goals in the end. What concerns me is, I think, looking at the bench, there was a complete lack of ideas. I don't understand the substitutions. I thought Danny Mack was our best player on the pitch at the time. He was the only one really looking to get forward, other than Jed, who was having a bit of an off day. He subbed him off and kept 3 centre-backs on the pitch, arguably 4 centre-backs on the pitch if you include Murray Wallace. I don't really think the players had an idea of what they were doing towards the end. I think they seemed completely lost as well. The pressure is really on Gary now to turn it round. I think the next 2 games are massive. I think the game against Sheffield United, if Millwall don't get a result there or don't at least put in a performance there, the game on Saturday is going to be very tense. And I think there's going to be very little patience from the crowd. We just have to hope that we can get a couple of results. We saw before the international break, a couple of wins on the bounce makes things look a little bit better. All of a sudden we were only 3 points off of that top 6 place. So 2 wins in a week would do the same thing for us now. However, I think Sheffield United and Stoke are much more challenging opposition, so the task is even greater. I still hope that Gary Rowett can turn it around, but at the same time, at the moment, I wouldn't be too upset if he was to be relieved of his duties. I'm not going to call for his sacking, though. I think it's down to the team, and I don't think we have much else to offer at the moment in the squad. But anyway, let's see what these 2 games do. If we lose both of them, I might change my opinion on that. Anyway, come on you lines. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Angelo. It's a first-time caller to Achtung. Been at the game today. I've always been a backer of Gary Rowett, but that first half, the football was just atrocious. You know, I don't know what's happened to Cooper. He's just not the player that he used to be. And I remember Gary Rowett saying that he couldn't wait to play the 3 up top, which was Ojo, Afobe and Jed. Which doesn't work for me because we don't create nothing for them. At least when Matt Smith does come on, he causes a bit of havoc. You know, things sort of like just happen. But terrible performance today. And I'm not a Rowett out, but the football is dire. It's really dire, and we're so disappointed today. So disappointing. Let's hope we can turn in some special performance at Sheffield United. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Achtung, Millwall.
Huge welcome on the show now to our very own Dewey Scalak. It's Mike Hayden. How are you, Michael?
Hello, Nick. Felt better this morning. Slightly hungover, but also, feeling a bit still disgusted following yesterday's result and performance.
Yeah, I mean, your tweet on Twitter yesterday has attracted a huge amount of interest. and we've also had quite a few phone calls to our voicemail and people sending stuff in to me, and there's a real general sense, and I don't know if you would agree with this, Mike, but I mean, there was a general sense at the ground yesterday that we're on the brink of a tipping point, or if we're not actually in the tipping point already. I mean, there's a lot of reaction when the second goal went in. And there was a chance almost immediately straight after that yesterday where, I mean, people can listen to the live stream, live recording I did earlier on in this show, and there's just a real sense that people maybe at last are starting to have had enough of Gary Rowett and his style. What do you think? How do you see things?
I think so. It was a big one yesterday for us because I think it's the first time at the Den that we've seen that reaction this season. I think people have been prepared to give him a chance. We're all excited to be coming to football again. I think people have been patient for sure. But I think yesterday's performance, as you say, I think was the tipping point. And I think to see that reaction of booing and lots of Rowett outs around me as well as I think that there was for you as well, Nick. I think it's a case of the fans telling Rowett that we're just not going to put up with these dreadful home performances anymore. He's been lucky before. During COVID, he's got away with it as well because, we weren't there to kind of shout at him. We were all shouting in front of our televisions and iFollow.
Yeah.
And, he was lucky to keep his job during that terrible run of form last season where we didn't win for God knows how long. But, this time now that we are there, we can make our voices heard and we're not happy with these home performances. It's just not good enough. I think what's kind of frustrating as well, Nick, is that our league position isn't too bad. Do you know what I mean? 14th. We're playing quite well away from home, but we just can't put up with this abysmal home performances. They're just some of the worst I've seen. And yesterday was just atrocious. And I don't think the Den crowd are willing to put up with it anymore, Nick.
I mean, the one thing that you'll never get away with at Millwall, Mike, you and I have both been there for some time between the pair of us. You won't get away with no effort, and there seemed to be a real lack. And I think even Gary Rowett in his post-match video that he does with the club, he kind of hinted at the lack of desire, is the way he put it. Because if you look at that starting 11, excuse me, if you look at the starting 11 yesterday, I mean, that's a decent side. That should be a side capable of beating. No disrespect to Luton, I thought they actually played quite well, but we should be able to beat Luton at home with that starting 11. We might struggle against some of the top six, but that should be a winnable game yesterday. Bielkowski, Ballard, Hutchins and Hooper, that's a decent back three and goalkeeper. Midfield, McNamara, Evans, Saville, Wallace. Murray may be, but he gives everything and, he's not out of place. Then you've got a front three of Jed Wallace, Shea Ojo, and Benik Afobe, Mike. That's a decent front three, and yet it's not clicking. It's not happening. This is what strikes me from yesterday's experience. There's all the old Eric Morecambe gag, isn't it? It's all the right notes, but not in the right order.
Yeah, absolutely. But the manager's to blame there. He's the one who sets the tactics. He's the one who picks the players. I agree. I think our starting 11 is strong. He can't make the excuse about injuries anymore because I think we've come out of that crisis. Yes, maybe one or two are still missing, but the majority of the side and arguably our strongest 11 is available. We lack an identity as a side, which I'm struggling with as well, Nick. What are we as a club? Because we're not strong defensively anymore because this season has been a disgrace at the back. I mean, the amount of goals from set plays that we've let in, the mistakes yesterday were atrocious as well. We're not a possession-based side. We're not an attacking side. No. We don't necessarily play long ball. I just don't know. It's just nothing at the moment. And we've got no personality at home. And that was just evident to me yesterday. I mean, he can say in his post-match all he wants about, we told them to be passionate and go at the team. But if the formation doesn't allow players to thrive and do that, they're not going to be able to. This formation, it works well away from home. Let's be honest, we've picked up some okay results. We accept that. That's not too bad. We know we're not going to be that exciting away from home. We never have been as a side. But at home, the Den's a fortress. And you've got to pick a formation which looks to be on the front foot, and he doesn't. And as I say, I think the Den crowd certainly made their feelings clear yesterday about that.
They did with some interest on top. I'm your point is good. I made the same point myself. How we're not bad. We're not brilliant away, but we're not bad. I mean, we can certainly go to clubs like Barnsley. We may well go to Sheffield United and make it very, very difficult for them on Tuesday night. I'd expect us to, because if we don't do that, then there really is no point to Gary Rowett and his style. But the Den is, the secret weapon or the not so secret weapon at Millwall is the crowd, and if you don't bring them into the game on your side, which is what he's not achieved yesterday was his 100th game in charge, and I think like us all, I've wanted him to do better than he's actually done. I kind of see the need post Neil Harris for us to, I don't know what the word is, modernise. I don't know whether I think everyone knows what I mean by that, but I'm not sure it's the right term. But anyway, move forward football wise. And after 100 games, Mike, you're entitled to be judged, aren't you? And yes, there's been injuries, but then other teams manage injuries. There's been COVID. Everyone else has had COVID as well. We're not alone. And I think at 100 games, you are entitled to now come in with a general kind of report, and it's just not exciting. And I think that's a problem. It's a problem at the Den because it's a place built on theatre, isn't it? Excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what was good under Harris. I mean, we didn't necessarily play the best football, and we know it ended up a little bit sour. It was the right time to go, but you'd have these moments under Neil Harris. These fabulous
Neil Harris
games.
moments. Yeah.
These absolutely incredible games which we'll remember for the rest of our lives, and they're why you go to football. And you had that under Neil Harris. You don't get that under Rowett. You just don't. No. It's just you can't bring in the crowd, and it's just the way we play. We don't have that rip-roaring style that Neil was quite good at bringing at home, and I think that's frustrating. But yeah, you're right. He's definitely now is the time to judge him. He'll plenty long enough. Where are we going to move forward? I suppose, and I think people are going to say to me, because I saw a few tweets online, sort of supporting Rowett in some respects. This 7-game unbeaten run, the fact that we're not in a bad place in the league. But I'd question if they've come to the Den this season, because if they have, they'll see exactly what we're all kind of talking about. But yeah, absolutely, he has the right to be judged. And I think now is the time where if we don't see a reaction, it's going to turn sour and fast, Nick. I think that's the case. And Sheffield United away, is what it is. I mean, good side. We'll see how we get on. But Stoke at home is a big game for Gary Rowett, because if he gets that wrong and performs like yesterday, that booing is going to get worse and worse and worse. And we've seen fans get rid of managers before, Lomas being one for sure. Holloway in the end, we got rid of him. So I think he needs to think about that big time.
Yeah, I mean, a tough week. I mean, Sheffield United mid-table, but it's the proverbial difficult place to go, isn't it, on the Tuesday night, all the way up to Sheffield. So we'll see what we get. Yeah, that's the right way to put it. I mean, their record is as average as ours in looking at the table at the moment. Stoke will be a tough gig, because they can sit back and let us come on to them. And for reasons that are unfathomable, he does. It's almost not in Gary Rowett's DNA to use some attractive players. I was watching Shea Ojo yesterday. He's a very intelligent boy on the ball. He's got that Liverpool quality to him. Benik Afobe is a skillful player, but we're pumping the balls into Benik like it's Matt Smith up front. Well, Smithy is who he is, and I love him to death. But that's you have to adjust your style to suit the players in front of you. I mean, Jed yesterday was kind of had a kind of a go anywhere you like role, but it all seems a bit shapeless. And the great players can be given a free and open brief, can't they? I'm thinking of the Diego Maradonas and the kind of the true greats of the game. But most teams require some fairly, I don't know, they need a role, and I think Jed is slightly searching for a role out there as well. Goes back to your point about identity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is some more structure. I mean, Jed Wallace, we'd love him to be like Maradona, but he's not.
Well,
He's not. He's
not
not.
that
He's not
good.
good at. No, well, that's it. But he's not. These players are championship players. They're not good enough to necessarily have this free roam type thing and be really effective. They're just not. So yeah, we shouldn't be doing that. But another player. What is the point of George Saville, Nick? I mean, this is the player that we should be building the side around.
Yeah.
All the goals and assists that he got when he was here last time.
No
He
sign of that,
just
Mike. No sign of that.
no, but I don't necessarily blame Saville. It's just the role he's expected to play. The way that we play at the moment with this formation basically is we just get it out wide is basically what we do. George Evans sits in, collects the ball, passes out wide. So George Saville playing in advance of George Evans, he's never going to get the ball. And it was times yesterday where I was just like, well, Saville should be standing there, or where's Saville? Oh, he's all the way over there. And he just never gets the ball. And that's another frustration, like not using players to their best of their ability, as you say, Nick, with a Phobie, who is a lethal striker.
Yeah.
And we can't get him in the game. And go back to, these are management decisions. These are tactical decisions that he's getting wrong. You have to get the best out of your players. You have to know how to play them. He's not, Nick,
No,
and this is
no.
not good to see, because as you say, he's had quite a lot of time to get this right now, and he isn't still. So
I mean, I was fascinated, if that's horribly fascinated, given the game as it unfolded. And one of the articles that I read, I think it was on the South London Press, might have been News at Day, I think it was South London, that Gary Rowett had made a point of saying that he'd used the international break to work on our attacking play. And, I know a bad performance, all these kinds of headlines will come back to haunt you. But leaving aside the easy digs, I mean, there was just little evidence of that yesterday. I mean, if that means that Shea Ojo and Jed Wallace have a go anywhere role, well, as we've said already, neither player is of such a talented level that they can take that on and make it happen. I mean, you do have to go to the top drawer for that to really work. I mean, Ojo it was early in the first half, and it was right in front of me where I sit. He made a beautiful run and a beautiful cross into the 6-yard box, but there was no one there. There was no Matt Smith. It was a cross made for the big man. Now, he's got his critics as well, and his game is not perfect, but that would have been a goal with Matt Smith, because he would have just barged his way through, and that would have gone into the back of the net. We're not deploying our assets in the right way, and that, unfortunately, from Gary Rowett's point of view, comes back to his decision making, which begs the question: is it time to go? Is it time for taxi for Mr. Rowett? It's the $64,000 question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Not yet. And the only reason is I want to see how he responds to that reaction at the Den yesterday, because there's one or two ways. He sorts it out and puts in a really good performance against Stoke, and not all is forgiven, but it gives the fan base some comfort that he's clearly seen that it's not working. He's changed it. He's changed it to something that works. We win the game, and that is the hope for the Stoke game.
Yeah.
But if we see something like that again, I'm starting to think he doesn't know the solution. And when you don't know the solution when you're playing badly, especially at home and you're Millwall, it's not going to be long, Nick. I don't think. But I would say not yet. But there's a couple of scenarios, and if I'm honest, I think we are going down the bad one. I am losing faith that I think he can turn it around. If I'm honest, with his home form, he's had long enough. I've seen a lot of us this season, and I think if you knew what you were doing, you would have changed it already. Do you know what I mean? So I can see him. I could see him getting sacked, but it depends what the club do as well. I mean, I don't know if we're not a sacking club, are we? How
we don't
much
seem
time
to
do you
be
give
historically.
him? No, apart from Lomas is the only one who really had a short spell in the last period of time. But I think he'll be gone certainly by Christmas if he doesn't pick up these home performances. He should be anyway.
It is a big week in front of us. I mean, I think luckily for him, we've got an away trip on Tuesday night, because I think so soon after Saturday, it would have been still feeling very raw. We'll see what we get at Bramall Lane. I mean, a win can relieve a lot of a lot of tension. And then, as you said earlier on, the home game v Stoke really looks like a large game. And if we get 2 more defeats, if that's what happens, then I'll be surprised if he's still in place by the end of the week. I don't know what to make of him, Mike, because when he first came to us, and which was really using Neil Harris's squad, he actually looked quite incisive, and he looked like he brought a level to us. I think he put it at the time that he'd made 1 or 2 minor changes and tweaks, I think was the word that he used to the way that we played football. And then we had that roll up until the now mythical 3-0 win at Forest, which seems like a different age ago. I can't imagine us going to I can't imagine us going away and dominating a team like we did that night. I know COVID made broke the world apart, and that's for everyone. But it's just such a strange. It was a strange start, a strangely good start, given everything that's unfolded since. It's all been so drab. And for me, George Evans sums us up. George Evans is the Gary Rowett in one player. I don't have a problem with George Evans, but he's just so average. I'm sure he's a nice bloke. I've never met him, so I've no knowledge, and I'm sure he's a popular squad member. But he's not going to. George Evans will not change a game. He's not going to destroy our midfield. He's not going to do. He'll do a bog standard job, and it feels a bit like that with Gary Rowett now. It's become bog standard, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. Just is. I think average is a good word to use. I think Michael said in WhatsApp, I think he'd have faith that it's unlikely we'd get relegated under Rowett, because I think he's a shrewd operator. I think he can pick up some points when he needs them, but he's not going to pick up points on a consistent basis enough for us to hopefully challenge for the top 6, which, was our aim this year, if we're honest. And we look miles away from being good enough to do that. Absolutely miles. Absolutely miles. So, that's the one. I mean, there's obviously that theory. And I agree with you. I think he did start quite well, and that Forest 3-0 was probably the epitome.
The pinnacle.
It was good. The pinnacle, sorry. Yeah, exactly. And since then, obviously with COVID, it's been difficult. And obviously this departure of Callum Davidson, which is maybe something to do with it as well. It seems to be a bit of a coincidence that the minute his right-hand man leaves, we turn to shit. Was it the Ray Wilkins to your Dennis Wise sort of scenario? Do you know what I mean? The brains behind the operation is possible. But also all of our coaching staff, correct me if I'm wrong, are all defenders, aren't they? I mean, no, we don't have any knowledge about trying to attack a team. I mean, shouldn't we try and bring in someone like Steve Morrison as a coach or someone, do you know what I mean, that actually knows how to coach an attacking side? I mean, they're all defenders, aren't they? Rowett, Barrett was. He brought that Robinson in. It just seems very strange.
We are joined mid-conversation by Mr. Harry Warren. Welcome to the show, Harry.
This is a bit new, isn't it?
Yeah, this is our new. Well, you listeners need to know, because it will be an audio podcast, but we are using a new video streaming site called StreamYard, and we may, if I can wrestle with my conscience, we may do some video stuff at some point, but not yet, not today, not Sunday morning, not with looking at the three faces staring back at me at the moment.
It's not pretty, isn't it?
It's not a video nasty. There's a term from the past for all the older listeners. Harry, I know you were playing yesterday, so you missed yesterday's shocker. In all honesty, at the
choice.
Well, I mean I don't know. I mean, I think I caught myself saying it, and we've had quite a few phone calls on the voicemail, so we'd have played it by the time on the show by the time we're speaking. A reaction from fans, and it's a pretty common thing that no one wants to see us go through the pain of a sacking, because historically we don't do that very well or very ruthlessly, and we tend not to have anyone lined up to come in. So probably in the short term, as Mike and I said earlier on, it's probably looking like Adam Barrett to come in if he does go. I generally can't see him lasting the week after yesterday's show, because
that's bold.
Well, because the ingredients, we've said this already, so I don't want to repeat myself, but the ingredients are good in the cake, but they're not being used in the correct manner, and that comes back to the manager and the managerial choices. I know we've seen this quite a few times, but now for many, and certainly those sat around me in block one, and I dare say where Mike was, because the whole stadium was reacting. I think there's a general sense that he doesn't know how to attack at the Den, and if you don't do that, then your time should be limited.
I agree. I think the way I'd say, I'd nick a Jeremy Clarkson quote for talking about when car manufacturers get together. So it's like you've given the Germans and the Italians have come together on something, and you've let the Italians do, the electrics on the car,
the engineering,
and you've let the Germans do the food, and that's not the idea. That's not what you want. No one wants sauerkraut, and that's what we've got. We've got a load of sauerkraut when we should really be eating beautiful ragu. We should be having wine, and there should be, I don't know, there should be exciting little tidbits from Conor Mahoney, and Jeb Wallace should be doing the artistry, and we should have
Conor Mahoney wasn't even on the squad yesterday. I don't think.
I mean, that's unfortunate considering the fact that his best 2 games in the Millwall shirt have both been against Luton Town. It's the only game that he turns up for, in my opinion. But other people seem to think he's good. The thing that I'd say about Rowett is that it's not bad enough. This is probably, repeating old lines, but he's not bad enough to get sacked. I think the league position and the points and the fact that he doesn't lose games, he draws games, will keep him in a job, unfortunately. And I've given up. I can't go. I can't watch it. I can't. And that is the first, even under Holloway.
Harry. That's what you just said there. Is, I mean, I was looking at Mike put a comment on Twitter, and there's a lot of people saying very similar things. They can't. They've lost the spirit. They've lost that Millwall desire. I mean, you would have seen it, Mike, in your replies, and loads of people saying that they're bored stiff, which is not good, is it?
I think the difference is, and there seems to be a split online of, the looming manager question seems to be the one that kills me. There's people that don't want it, but we are going to get to a point where we need to do that. And the problem is do you have a firefighter? Do you go for a project, or do you go for blood, passion, fight, tears? Now, Millwall, everyone, there seems to be very much a divide of the fan base at the moment, and I fear this is going to be controversial, and it's unlike me to be controversial.
That's not you. That's
not me in any way, shape, or form. But you seem to be split into 3 camps. You seem to be old school, who have been here before, seen Millwall in the 4th division. You come to Millwall for the drink, the enjoyment, the atmosphere, and that's not there under Rowett, so you don't like him. Then you get the people in the middle, probably of my age group, that have gone for that. I'd now go towards middle age. See, I've just said that. Fuck that.
Exactly. Slow, mate. You don't get any better.
Right, and so you remember your best memories of your childhood and going forward are sort of McCarthy sides into McGee, McCleary, Harris, Kenny Jackett. These are your managers that you've seen, and do you think that with the budget that Rowett's given, you sort of compare the two and you think, no, he's doing a shit job? Yeah, and that's where I am. Then you go to the new breed of Millwall supporters, the ones who do TikToks, the ones that are on Twitter, the ones that want to turn this into some kind of career. As we learnt on the FCAs the other night, it's not, right? Elephant in the room, Claxon. Go to the FCAs next year, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see troops from Arsenal Fan TV on top form. That's all I'm going to say, right? But these people didn't want Harris, so I don't know what you want. That's the problem. I don't understand what that group want. I understand what I want, and I understand what the older group seemingly want. You want, without saying you want 4-4-2, meat pies and gravy. That's what you want. You want Millwall to be blood fat. I'm somewhere in the middle where I'd like us to be able to do both, which is what I thought Rowett was brought in to do, is to keep the good bits of Harris and bring a bit of Nous and go forward in the division. We haven't done that. And the only manager out there at the moment who's without a job and still getting paid from another club is probably Wilder. It's the only one that I would think would get us, being Northern. Would he get us? I don't know. But in terms of where we want to go and building a project and something, I'd understand that. we probably won't be able to afford him, so that's probably too
Someone
much.
suggested Antonio Conte. So I hope that was a joke.
Is Mike Ashley buying us? Is that what's happening?
We need a suspect Middle Eastern regime of some sort to take
well, that's
us over.
basically it now. You know, clutching of pearls from many Premier League clubs after they tried to ruin football 6 months ago seems to be short memories. Yeah, I don't know. I even saw people moaning like still seems to be this mad quest to make some form of sense of Neil Harris's time at the club, and it's like it looms like a fucking. I don't know. This must be what I don't know.
They were the last good times, really, when we got promoted from League One. We had the triumph at Wembley and the cup runs and all that. And I mean, when we started this conversation with Mike before you joined, I mean, one of the things, and it was a good point that Mike made, was about the loss of identity of the club, because although the football was ultimately limited under Neil Harris, and I don't think he's the solution to take us forward, maybe in time, who knows, but not now. It looked and felt like Millwall, and because I think Neil understands Millwall. It reached a natural point of where it had to move on, and I think he would say that as well. But the problem that we've got with Gary Rowett now is that, and it goes back to that point that you made already. You know, what kind of club are we? Are we a League One Championship shuttle club, which is kind of where 442 meat pies and Steve Morrison or some alternative like that will take us up front? Or are we a kind of an aspirational continental side where we knock it about and we've got some Spanish or Portuguese manager, and you know, we signed a lot of players from the second or third tiers of from foreign leagues, or if not that, then what? We're never going to be it's hard to see us in the role of a Norwich or some club like that, where they're way too good for the Championship but not good enough for the Premier League. Very hard to see us in that role.
Problem is for us, which still makes me laugh now, is that people don't know what they want. There seems to be a massive split. Like, you read comments like Twitter. I know Twitter's not the world's greatest barometer, shall we say? Yeah, exactly. Or Hoff. You know, these are not the places of. It's not the House of Commons. No, I suppose that's in poor taste. I do apologise, but the fact of the matter is that Millwall are in a position where this season the den should be full every week, and you are driving fans away from going and watching that shower of shit. And it's not bad enough. Like, it's almost, there's a weird catharticism of being shit and being proper shit, because you go there and you go, these are shit. I'm going to give them abuse today. You're a cunt. You fucking useless. You're this, you're that. And Millwall fans enjoy that secretly. Enjoy slagging people off, especially their own club. But somebody else slags us off. Oh, you're dead.
Oh, that's not allowed.
That's not allowed, right? No. But Rowett hasn't got to that stage yet of, you know, we're not at Holloway levels of hiding in dugouts yet. But I'm looking forward to coming to that. I mean, it's a great point.
It's going down that road, Mike, isn't it?
If you were there yesterday, Harry, you would start to see that the den crowd is turning on Rowett.
Next week, I might bring a sign.
The look of joy in his little face, listeners. You won't see it. The look of joy in his little face.
Go back, listeners. I'm telling you now. Go back to when he was appointed. I said he'd be sacked in October. I never specified what October, but I did say he'd be sacked in October.
Gentlemen, I want to say thank you to you both for dragging yourselves out of your respective pits to join me on a video call.
Okay, I've got to go and bloody watch a National League women's game now. It's great.
Oh yeah, you're doing your scan. How's it going, H? Are you enjoying yourself?
I am enjoying myself. The team that I actually want to watch today, this is one of the peculiarities of the women's game, is that they don't necessarily play every week, which is kind of annoying from a scout. You go, oh yeah, I'll go and watch them again next week. Yeah, and you can't do it. So today I'm going to go and watch Seaward. Have got, I can't remember, they've got Millwall away at a team that play a Dorking United who play at the Den, which is awkward, clearly. So they play in Uxbridge somewhere. So I'm not going to go and watch that. Seaward are in Walthamstow, so I'll just drive around there and go and see what the standard's like in the National League. I bet the women's tier is weird. The National League isn't as low down as you think. I actually think that's like League One, right? The National League, which is weird. But yeah, that's what it is.
Enjoy yourself, mate. Thanks for coming on this morning. Appreciate it. We'll see what this week brings as it unfolds. Big thank you to Mike Hayden for joining me. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick.
Thanks, Harry. And thank you to you
Thanks, mate.
too, dear listeners. And Arrivederci Millwall was about all I can think to say after yesterday. We'll be back in the week following Sheffield United.
Thank you for listening to Achtung Millwall. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a cheeky little review. Arrivederci Millwall. Till next time.
Who do you want to watch?